ప్రముఖ ఇంజనీర్ విశ్వేశ్వరరావు గారు.
లైవ్ స్టార్ట్ అయింది.
శర్మ మన పాయ్ గారు జాయిన్ అయ్యారా?
గుడ్ మార్నింగ్ సార్.
సార్ గుడ్ మార్నింగ్ సార్.
మనము ఈరోజు మోక్షంగుండ విశ్వేశ్వరయ్య గారి జన్మదినం జరుపుకున్న సందర్భంగా నా పేరు బోడ నాగేశ్వరరావు, మీ అందరికీ శుభాకాంక్షలు తెలుపుతున్నాను సార్.
రవి సార్ అన్నారు మీరు?
మన వివేకానంద పాయ్ గారు జాయిన్ అయ్యారా?
ఇంకా అయినట్లేదు.
10:55 అవుతుంది ఇప్పుడు.
శాస్త్రిజీ
సార్ నమస్తే సార్. నమస్తే.
నమస్తే. నమస్తే
కో-హోస్ట్.
నమస్తే.
ఓకే ఓకే. సార్ కో-హోస్ట్ చేయడం అవుతుందేమో చూడండి. అట్లాగే అందరినీ.
దీనికి ఆ ఫీచర్ లేదు, ఓన్లీ పోస్ట్ ఒకటే వస్తుంది.
అవునా? సరే సరే, ఓకే ఓకే ఓకే. సో ప్రొఫెసర్ సత్యనారాయణ గారు కూడా జాయిన్ అవుతారు, ప్లీజ్. నమస్తే వర్మ గారు. అందరూ సార్ ప్రొఫెసర్ సత్యనారాయణ గారు కూడా జాయిన్ అయ్యారు. మీరు యూ కెన్ స్టార్ట్ ద ప్రోగ్రామ్ ఎగ్జాక్ట్లీ at 11 o'clock.
ఓకే సార్. సార్ నమస్తే సార్. నమస్కారం సత్యనారాయణ గారు, డైరెక్టర్.
సత్యనారాయణ గారు నమస్తే అండి. వివేకానంద పాయ్ జీ నమస్తే.
నమస్తే. నమస్తే అవధాని గారు.
మోక్షంగుండ విశ్వేశ్వరయ్య born was an Indian civil engineer, statesman and acting belonged to from 1922 to 1990. He received Indian Space in 1955. Today we are celebrating the Vijnana Mandali of Vijnana, and we are all become
కొంచెం సౌండ్ తక్కువ వస్తుందండి వాళ్ళు.
లేదు సార్, మీ మాటలు బాగానే వినపడుతుంది.
మోక్షంగుండ సివిల్ ఇంజనీర్, ఇంజనీరింగ్ రంగంలో విశేషమైన కృషి చేశారు. ఆనకట్టల నిర్మాణం కీలక పాత్ర పోషించిన విశ్వేశ్వరయ్య గారు ఇంజనీర్ రంగానికి ప్రముఖ పాత్ర పోషించి జాతిపిత అయ్యాడు. సార్ పేరు మీద ఇండియా పోస్టేజ్ స్టాంప్ను కూడా భారత
సో 11 కి కార్యక్రమం ప్రారంభమవుతుంది. దయచేసి అందరూ కూడా మ్యూట్ లో ఉండగలరు. డాక్టర్ వర్మ గారు విల్ స్టార్ట్ ద ప్రొసీడింగ్.
So very good morning to one and all. So before we proceed with the talk on the Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya Garu contributions in national building, I request all the participants to mute themselves. Also, I request hello.
వాయిస్ కొద్దిగా పెంచండి వాల్యూమ్.
Now is it audible, sir, properly?
Little louder, sir. Little louder.
Yeah, I think the good morning. This is Satrana here.
Sir,
Am I audible?
yes sir, you are audible sir.
Yeah.
Very clear and
Yes, sir. Namaste, sir. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste,
so,
sir.
Varma garu, you can continue. Wow.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Very good morning to one and all. Happy Engineers Day to everyone from Bharateeya Vijnana Mandali. Welcome to the talk on Sri Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya Garu contributions in nation building as a part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Now, I request everyone to mute yourself. Before we start this meeting. Now, I welcome Sri K.N. Satyanarayan Garu, today's speaker, and I also welcome Vivekananda Pai Garu, the Secretary of the Bharateeya Vijnana Mandali, and the President of Bharateeya Vijnana Mandali, Dr. P.S. Avadhani Garu, Secretary Dr. G.R.K. Shastri Garu, and constituent many guests and participants and different college coordinators and principals to this talk on Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya Garu contributions in national building. Now, before we proceed, I request all the college coordinators in sequential order to introduce themselves and welcome to this event. And now I request Dr. Ramakrishna Garu, Principal, Potti Sri Ramulu College of Engineering. Dr. Ram.
Good morning, Namaskaram, and good morning to everyone. The revered Professor Dr. K.N. Satyanarayan Garu, the Director of IIT Tirupati, and Vivekananda Pai, National Secretary, Vijnana Bharati Kochi, and the principals of various institutes, fellow colleagues, and other participants and students. Very good morning to all of you, and I wish you a happy Engineers Day. And this is the day on which we look at the definition of an engineer who looks into the society, understands their problems, using his knowledge gives a feasible solution for their well-being. Having said that, we have been witnessing the technological revolutions and reversals last few decades, from wired phone to wireless phone and wireless TV to wired TV, and particularly the domain. Earlier, the teachers, the libraries, and the books were acting as the resources producing the knowledge. It is also reversed. Now it is a knowledge society. Knowledge is producing resources. This is the reversal, and the education also has taken the reversal from teacher-centric to the learner-centric. And the knowledge, from knowledge to knowing is happening. And India and other countries, India is producing almost 25% of the total world's engineers. And the quality is the question, as all of you know, and 80% as per NASSCOM do not have the skills to take up the employment. And only 5% of this total 10 lakh engineers produced in India are from premier institutes like IITs and NITs. Now, other side, the other countries like As an example, Japan and China have quickly embraced this Industry 4.0 technologies and leveraging the fruits. In this context, our AICT chairman, Sri Anil D. Shastrabudhe, and his team members have stood up to create 21st century skills and Industry 4.0 skills through hands-on and learning by doing and visualizing even the product or prototype. So this is a wonderful moment. PSCMR seat, our college also has taken a good part in this initiative, and today let us join hands to actively participate in this movement to transfer the compulsive education to conscious education, intellect to intelligence, and all engineering institutions to experiential learning centers. Let us make this happen on this wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ramakrishna Garu. Now I request all the coordinators to be briefly give their message in 2 minutes. Now I request K. Shivaji Babu Garu, Principal, PVP Siddhartha Institute of Technologies.
Namaste. On behalf of Principal K. Shivaji Babu from PVP SIT, I am Dr. Kishore Reddy, Assistant Professor in Mechanical Engineering. On behalf of our principal, sir, it is my privilege to introduce our college, one of the premier institutes in Andhra Pradesh, and we have A plus NAC and NBA for last 3 years. And on behalf of our college, I am happy to join to associate with the Vijnana Mandali. And wholeheartedly, I am welcoming the guests, Professor K.N. Sachinarayana Garu and Vivekananda Paiji, and the elders of Bharateeya Vijnana Mandali and all the participants. Thank you, Ananda. You go to Varma Garu,
please continue.
Sir, now I request Dr. C. Rajagopal Reddy Garu, Principal, Sri Venkateshwara Institute of Science and Technology, Kadapa. If Sir is not available, now I request Dr. T. Jayachandra Prasad Garu, Principal, Rajiv Gandhi Memorial College of Engineering and Technology, Nandyala. Or Dr. V. Ashok Kumar Garu from that college. So now I request Dr. Ratnakar Garu, Principal, SVEC Tadepalli Gudam, Sri Vasavi Engineering College.
So, good morning all of you, sir. This is Rajshekar, HOD of Basic Sciences and Humanities, Sri Vasavi Engineering College. I am speaking on behalf of our principal, Dr. Ratnakar Garu. So, first I say my warm wishes on this occasion. As all of you know, engineering is the professional and systematic applications of science to the efficient utilization of the resources to produce the wealth and as well as health. So today, whole nation celebrating Engineers Day to commemorate the birth anniversary of scholar of the 20th century, you know, father of modern Mysore, and above all, Bharat Ratna, Sri Mokshagundam Visesvaraya Garu, more commonly known as Sir VM, who was born on 15th September 1860. So on this occasion, Sri Vasavi Engineering College, Tadapalli, West Godavari district, who is standing among top engineering colleges in the state of Andhra Pradesh. And the college has been continuing its journey with the help of good number of doctorates and well-experienced and highly qualified faculty and research activities, more than that, social perspective thing. So with this, our college say warm wishes to engineers who contributed in nation building, and also wishes to the future engineers. So today, in association with Vijnana Mandali, we are also participating in this occasion. We are very happy to participate this, and our students, nearly 100 students joined with this program. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, Rajshekhar garu. Now I request Professor S. Shambhu Prasad garu, Principal Pragati Engineering College, Kakinada.
So thank you, sir. Respected dignitaries, Dr. K.N. Satyanarayana garu, Director, IIT Tirupati, Honorable Shri Vivekananda Pai, National Secretary, Vijnana Bharati, Kochi, respected dignitaries from Bharateeya Vijnana Mandali, respected Professor G.R.K. Sastry garu and my good friend, and respected delegates and participants and student friends. I am Dr. Shambhu Prasad, Principal Pragati Engineering College. Take this opportunity to pay tributes to the great engineer, Sri Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya garu, on behalf of Team Pragati. And I also take this opportunity to wish all the members on the board a happy Engineers Day. I thank the organizers from NIT AP, Dr. G.R.K. Sastry garu, and his team for giving an opportunity to our college to join this session and collaborate in this activity. I am very sure that all of us will be benefited through the talks of eminent speakers of today, that is Dr. Satyanarayana garu, Director IIT Tirupati, and Shri Vivekananda Pai, National Secretary, Vijnana Bharati, Kochi. And a brief summary about our college is Pragati Engineering College is a 20-year-old institution with an current annual intake of 1,080 with 100% admissions. And our college is NAAC accredited with A grade and having autonomous status. And the 5 BTech programs of our college are NBA accredited. And our motto is to train the students in a proper direction and make them industry ready. And as per the AICT direction, the AICT is focusing more on entrepreneurship and innovation in the recent past. And as the principals of various colleges, it's my personal opinion is that we should focus more on training the students on innovation and entrepreneurship domain and make them more industry ready or make them to start the industries so that more employment can be generated. So I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. And once again, I wish all the participants on the board a happy Engineers Day. Thank you one and all. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Professor Shambhu Prasad garu. Now I request Professor M. Jagapati Raju garu, Principal, Sagi Ramakrishna Raju College, SRKR College of Engineering, Bhimavaram. Okay, sir. We shall proceed with the next part of the program. Now, before we hear our guest, please we briefly know about, try to know about the Professor K.N. Satyanarayana garu. So, Kalidindi N. Satyanarayana garu, currently he is the Director of IIT Tirupati, Andhra Pradesh. So, he has been a professor in Building Technology, Construction, Management Division of Management Division, which is a specialization in Department of Civil Engineering at IIT Madras. He received his bachelor's degree in engineering, in civil engineering from IIT Madras. Later, he did his MS and PhD degrees in construction engineering and management from Clemson University, United States of America. Later, he moved as a faculty member at IIT Madras, and he has been there since 1991 in different positions. In 2019, he was a visiting professor at Iowa State University, USA. So his main research interests are in project management, construction contracts, construction productivity, C&D waste management, public-private partnerships. Presently, he is working on several projects and he has published extensively in these areas. So he is also a recipient of many academic awards, including PMI Distinguished Scholar Award in 2011, and he served as advisor alumni affairs and chairman engineering unit. Currently the chairman of implementation committee for IIT Madras Research Park, so which is a 1 million square foot facility that is coming in IIT Madras. He has served on the committees for setting up new campuses, including IIM Tiruchi, IIT Indore, and IIT Jodhpur. He is chairman of Academic Advisory Group, Project Management Institute, India, and also the vice chairman, Board of Advisors of the Glass Academy, the expert member on the Board of Management of Building Materials and Promotion Council, BMTPC, and serves as independent director on 5 company boards. Very popular and renowned person in the field of civil engineering. And we heartily welcome Dr. Kalidindi N. Satyanarayana Garu for sparing his valuable time on this occasion. So, before I request our speaker to speak on the topic, there is a small song, that is Vijnana Mandali song, which is dedicated for the science and technology. I request the Karthikeya Sharma to play it. Sir, it is not audible. If there is any problem with audio, a video file, I request him to play the audio file. Still, it is not audible, sir. Sir, Shravan Kumar Garu. Audio, it is not audible, sir. Video is getting played.
जनहित में मनपथम अवनिरक्षाभिमतम सर्वलोकहितकरि विज्ञान भारतम विश्व शांतिदायिनी विज्ञान भारतम वेदंतो विज्ञानपु మూలములందించిన శాస్త్రంతో జగతికి తరగని సిరులను పంచిన వేదంతో విజ్ఞానపు మూలములందించిన శాస్త్రంతో జగతికి తరగని సిరులను పంచిన ఆయువు ఆరోగ్యమిచ్చు ఓషధులందించిన ఆయువు ఆరోగ్యమిచ్చు ఓషధునందించిన జనహితమే మన పథం అవని రక్ష అభిమతం జనహితమే మన పథం అవని రక్ష అభిమతం సర్వలోకహితకరి విజ్ఞాన భారతం విశ్వశాంతిదాయిని విజ్ఞాన భారతం పరమాణువుతో ప్రచండ శక్తిని సృష్టించిన అంతరిక్ష లోకాలకు యాత్రలు సాగించిన పరమాణువుతో ప్రచండ శక్తిని సృష్టించిన అంతరిక్ష లోకాలకు యాత్రలు సాగించిన యోగంతో మానవుని మహోన్నతునిగా చేసిన యోగంతో మానవుని మహోన్నతునిగా చేసిన జనహితమే మన పథం అవని రక్ష అభిమతం జనహితమే మన పథం అవని రక్ష అభిమతం సర్వలోకహితకరి విజ్ఞాన భారతం విశ్వశాంతిదాయిని విజ్ఞాన భారతం.
Sharma sir, you may please proceed, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Now, will you please close this video? Thank you. Now I request our speaker, Kalvindi N. Satyanarayan Garu, Director IIT Tirupati, to give his message on this event.
Yeah. So, good morning, everyone. First of all, namaste, and thank you very much for having me over on this occasion of the Engineers Day. I thank the representatives of the Bharateeya Vijnana Mandali, Sri Shastri Garu, who has been in touch with me to take part in this event and giving me this opportunity, and Mr. Vivek Bhai and others. So good morning to all the representatives of various colleges. Some of their principals were there speaking earlier, the faculty, the staff, the students, and more importantly, the practicing engineers, ladies and gentlemen. So today, we have this various days that we celebrate throughout the year. We have the National Science Day, we have a Technology Day, then we have Engineers Day. And every week we have at least minimum one day where some occasion is celebrated. It helps people bring focus on a particular aspect because all of us are doing things every day, and these particular days brings everyone together to think about what is the role that this particular profession, or like Doctor's Day or Architect's Day or so on, what do this particular professions they play, the role they play in the society, and what taking stock also where we stand and so on. So this provides an occasion where we create platforms like we are doing today to discuss some of these issues. And aptly, the day in India, for example, the Teachers' Day is named after the eminent teacher Sri Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan. Similarly, the Engineers' Day is named after the most eminent and accomplished engineer that India has produced in the recent times, Sri Bharatratna Mokshagundam Vishwesvaraya. And he is an embodiment of what a complete engineer is, not in terms of not only from a technical side, from a policy side to an administration aspects. He started off through his contributions in civil engineering. He has been involved in so many initiatives that are still, these projects still very much become an integral part of our nation's, infrastructure, and led to improvement of livelihoods of millions of people, whether it is in terms of dams like the Krishna Rajsagar Dam that he was involved in constructing, various irrigation projects. He brought in some new concepts like block irrigation systems and so on, and water supply projects. He was involved in providing water supply to a number of places, not only in India, even abroad, like in Aden, in Yemen, places like Dharwad, Bijapur, Hyderabad, right? And he was also involved in certain city planning aspects, like in the city of Hyderabad. He had a lot of impact. And even, in terms of railway lines in the Mysore state. So the breadth of areas that he has touched is just amazing, and he has contributed in so many areas of engineering. And not only that, he basically has also contributed to the area of education, engineering education. He himself was educated at the College of Engineering, Pune, which is, I would rate as one of the top engineering colleges in the country. And he had a role later on also in restructuring that institution and naming it as the College of Engineering, Pune. He was associated with the Indian Institute of Science as a president of IISc for about 9 terms, from I think around in the 30s and so on, and also in the establishment of a few other institutions in like the Government College of Engineering in Bangalore, which is named after him now, Vishwesvaraya College of Engineering, and so on. So he's touched on various aspects, and having started as a civil engineer. So one of the projects that I had the opportunity to visit just about 3 weeks back, I was in Hyderabad, and I was going to Delhi, passing through Hyderabad. So I stayed over in Hyderabad for a day, and my brother lives in this place called Gandipet, where I was staying with him. And this place is, bordering Osman Sagar Lake. Now, this is a lake that he helped create after the Musi River floods. In fact, recently, this Osman Sagar tank is full, and I had the opportunity to go and walk along this lake. Morning walk. My brother took me there, and we were walking along this Osman Sagar Lake, and since the river was full and there were heavy rains in Hyderabad during that period, the water was let out, and I saw the gushing water being let out from the dam that has been built there by him in the 20s, let out into the Musi River. So I was so this is something that yesterday when I was mulling over on the topics to talk during today's event, brought back that just I had this opportunity that just 3 weeks back of not in 3, actually it was 2 weeks back, of going and seeing the project that he had created and the kind of impact it has had. In fact, he was during his time as an advisor to the Hyderabad Nizam. They also created a few other lakes, including the Himayat Sagar Lake, which is now the major water sources for this particular city, and also helped in flood control of these particular areas. And his exposure in terms of the technologies involved, and I think he was a strong believer that we need to learn from what everyone has done and try to see how we can use it for our nation building. So he had visited a number of countries to look at the projects that they were implementing there, taking to some of those ideas and getting them implemented in our country, in addition to even doing some things he's on his own, whether it was from the UK or Canada, Denmark, Russia, Japan. I understand he had visited all these countries, spent time there to understand how they're doing these projects and how we could implement some of these projects. And then later on, of course, as he served in the government at that time, the British government, and then he resigned and started working with the various, whether it's the Hyderabad Nawab, then later on going on to become the chief engineer of Mysore, where he had such a huge impact. And then he moved on to the administrative role as the Diwan of Mysore, where he led a lot of initiatives to major industrial transformation, agricultural transformation of the whole state, involved in setting up so many of the factories there. So there, you're talking about getting into manufacturing, whether it is the Mysore soap factory or the iron and steel works of Mysore, which is later on been renamed as Vishwesvaraya Iron and Steel Limited, whether it is the Mysore lamps, the chemicals and fertilizers industry there, paper mills, right, paints, different sectors. So in fact, he had gone and looked at various kinds of industries, studied the automobile sector, textiles, chemicals, even aircrafts. I understand he had some role in the establishment of HAL also. So his expertise was not, today we engineers, most of our engineers specialize in very narrow domains. And though he started off as a very strong civil engineer, he went on to get into all other areas in terms of the nation building, in terms of all, whether it's for mechanical or chemical or various industries, steel and so on. So this is here is a person who got into the, not only starting from a strong technical background, rose up to administrative positions and able to influence policy in a very strong way. Now, not many people have this kind of capability, because it's one thing to do a design, or one thing to come up with a scientific advance, but another thing to take it and convince people to implement it and take it to the people's benefit. Okay. Now this requires a multifaceted personality that you need to have. And if you see here, this is where he really stands out. And if you look at many of the other engineers, okay, who we talk about, the top, if you talk about who are the leading engineers in the country. Now this is I keep telling that we engineers are not very good at in terms of role models and so on. If you ask any kid who are great engineers of this country, they will not be able to name more than 3, 4. They will say Vishwesvaraya for sure. Everyone will talk about it. Maybe they will say Dr. Abdul Kalam. Then probably today I would rate Mr. Sridharan, E. Sridharan, also called the Metro Man, as a top engineer. Now this is where the scientists, the song that was played, along with the pictures, you will see most of the people there were scientists, not engineers. There were very few engineers among the pictures there. So engineers are not very good at creating these role models or creating which people look up to and so on. Of course, that is changing now. We have a lot of people who are good engineers who went on to become good business leaders, whether you're talking about people like Narayan Murthy in India, and then people like Sundar Pichai or Satya Nadella, who are all now in the latest areas of computer science and IT and so on. So this is something that that I think we as engineers need to do something about this, to create a passion about engineering. Now the problem today is engineering has become an area where where people is a first degree to get. Everyone wants to study engineering, but you ask most kids what engineering is, it's only because you'll get me a good job. But am I passionate about being an engineer? So what does an engineer do is the issue here, right? And there are a number of quotes that are attributed to various people. In fact, today we're getting so many messages, Happy Engineers Day. And so some of the quotes that are attributed to Vishwanath, things like science is about knowing and engineering is about doing, right? And so this is where they said the engineers really contribute, right? The ideas originate from science, and then engineers take it, make it into a product or make it into a service that is benefits the society. So we have a huge impact on the society and how we play out a role in this. So people, and then if you go really dig in deep in terms of the role of an engineer or the profile of an engineer, this has changed over a period of time. Again, some of the other engineers who are really revered, my roots, family roots are in the Godavari Delta area, so I go visit that place occasionally. And every village you go, you will find, almost every village you go, you will find either a picture or a statue of Arthur Cotton, right? Who is almost revered as a god in this area because of the transformation in the lives that he has brought in terms of the barrage he has built there and the irrigation system he has created and so on. So what is as engineer is that profile is also changing. Obviously, in the 1800s, late 1800s and early 1900s, mostly the profile of an engineer was a person who was building structures or facilities that is basically driven by the civil engineer. They were the prominent engineers who were making a big impact. Then, of course, the areas of mechanical engineering, whether it is from the steam engine onwards, various equipment that we manufacturing requirements. So the area of mechanical engineering also grew at the same time as civil engineering. But then later on, the electrical engineers in electrical engineering is the field that started taking a major role. So if you look at the 60s and 70s, from electrical engineering, from the power systems, whether it is power generation, power transmission, power distribution, these were the major areas that were driving some of the new innovations and how things are happening. And of course, then the chemical engineering area started. And from the 80s onwards, it has been the area of computer science and engineering started playing a dominant role. Now, this is, I'm talking about all the other engineering as essential, as required even today, as they were then. But I'm talking about the new areas that have started emerging and a lot of new activities and a lot of new ideas and new products started coming out. So computer science and engineering started becoming a dominant engineering field. And today, if you see the number of seats that are available in engineering colleges, if you see that as an indicator of the demand for engineers, or today, if you say almost, I would say between computer science and engineering and electrical engineering, probably the various streams of electrical engineering, whether it is electrical and communication or electrical and electronics or electrical instrumentation and so on, they will probably account for more than 70%, about at least 70% of the seats, if not more, in the number of engineers being produced. Now, the challenge is, one of the principals earlier alluded to this, as to the employability of these engineers when they come out. And how employable they are. And this is where there are a number of studies which say only 15% or 18% or 20%. At best, I have seen the best number I've seen is 30%, as I've seen as low as even 15%, saying only they are really employable. Now they're talking about, what are they talking about? They're talking about not only the technical skill, your ability as an engineer to communicate. When you do a design how you manufacture a product, you need to be able to understand what are the requirements, or you need to sell the idea to someone. You need to be able to communicate properly, whether it is oral communication. Even all the recent Nobel laureates, very few Nobel laureates now get this is based on, like if you take people like Raman or these people, where it's a small group that has worked and made a breakthrough. Today it is very big groups, and not just in one lab. It's multinational labs, so you have to work as teams. So teamwork becomes very important if you really want to deliver. So these are all the things that are becoming very important. That as an engineer, you need to inculcate. And then if you really want to get to the level of policy driving and all that, you need to really understand the dynamics, understand the society, how you interface with them, and so on. So these are some of the things that that all of us should be aware of. Now, our role as an engineer also, we need to understand. Okay, now we have major challenges in front of us. And another area that is becoming very important is the biotechnology area. Now, biology is becoming a very strong component of our engineering breakthroughs. Okay, a lot of schools have biotechnology. So it's becoming, a lot of things are becoming interdisciplinary. Okay, you need to look at things from multiple disciplines by a point of view. So even if you're a civil engineer, I myself as a civil engineer, as was whether it was Vishwesvaraya or E. Sridharan and so on, today you need to be up to date with the latest technologies. Things are changing at such a fast rate, whether it is the IoT, Internet of Things, applications of AI, ML, a lot of quantum technologies are coming in terms of utilization for better, today, for example, we are working on positioning and precision technologies, computing, quantum computing. So a lot of technologies are changing, and these are starting to impact how even traditional engineering areas work. So you should be up to date on all these things. So there's a lot of change that is happening on who an engineer is, right? From the days of Vishwesvaraya, Sri Vishwesvaraya to today, what is expected of an engineer. But most importantly, there are some fundamental aspects among all these great engineers, whether you talk about Vishwesvaraya, or you talk about Abdul Kalam, or you talk about Sridharan or Satish Dhawan. All of them you will see have certain characteristics. First thing is competence, right? You should know your subject well. You should be a very competent person, know your area thoroughly, the technical aspects, the scientific aspects, and so on. You should have commitment, right? You really want to do things that are beneficial to the society and to the profession, right? So commitment. You should have integrity. You talk to all these people, very strong level of integrity among them. Absolutely spotless career that they have led, and very disciplined lives. You see Mr. Sridharan today. Sri Sridharan today is nearly touching 90, but even today he's so fit. He does his yoga, he reads his Bhagavad Gita, and in spite of creating these transformational projects in India, Konkan Railway, the Delhi Metro, advisor to so many metro projects, all these people, if you think that if you implement this project as a professor of project management, I know how complex these projects are, how challenging they are, how stressful they are. Now, they say stress is a reason for a lot of your diseases and a lot of your heart problems or mental problems and all those things. But you see, Sri Vishwesvaraya lived on to be 101 years old, right? And Mr. Sridharan is still going very strong. He recently fought the elections also. So this is something that I think all of us need to take a lesson from these people who have got to the top. And in fact, I was in a talk at IIT Madras when E. Sridharan had visited us. And someone asked him, one of the students, I think, at the end of his talk, saying on corruption, saying that in today's world, is it possible that you can survive as an engineer or in a guy, especially in the government setup and all that, without corruption, right? Then he told his story about how when he was an engineer in one of the projects, his house, and this is when he was an young engineer, he was still probably an assistant engineer or an executive engineer. And the project went off, I think, well, the contractor came and left a newspaper and went away. When he opened the newspaper, he saw a bundle, cash bundle there. And he had to call the guy back and give him. He said, if I didn't do it that day, I don't think I would have been here today. So these are some of the lessons of integrity that I think all of us should inculcate in looking at this eminent personalities. And the last thought I thought I will leave in today's discussion is the issue of sustainability. We are all facing a crisis.
Hello, sir.
I think signal problem.
Sir, Professor Satyanarayan, sir, we lost your voice. It is not audible, sir.
Hello, sir. Satyanarayan. Sir, it is better to inform sir over phone.
Okay, I will talk to
Okay.
some connection issues there. Sir is joining again. Please bear with us.
I think Satyanarayan sir lost the connection.
Yes, sir. He is joining again. Some connection issue is there. He noticed it and he is joining again.
Okay.
Please bear.
Somebody should be, I think, sir, because
Sir, wait, ji.
98 is count now. 100 is the limit, no? So anyone cannot.
Shastriji, we can see whether he is able to join and then we'll decide.
Yes. I spoke to him. He told that I'm joining. He noticed
Okay.
the problem and
Okay.
he is concluding. At that time,
Okay.
network is disconnected.
Yes.
Something happened.
Yeah.
Sharma.
So I think
Sir, maximum number cross అయిపోయింది కాబట్టి సార్
so
జాయిన్
that's why
అవడానికి
I think okay.
Shastriji, what happened?
Sir, some network issue at director sir's chamber, so that's why he abruptly it was stopped, and he said that he noticed the issue and I will join. But our number is reaching maximum. That's why maybe he is unable to join again. So let us continue with our program. I will talk to sir. Huh? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, you tell him and then continue the program.
Okay.
Again, if he joins, then maybe we can continue with that.
Yes.
ఓకే సార్ అవుతుంది.
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yeah, you are audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Audible. Very much.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Please, sir.
So sorry about this. I believe the problem is not even at my institute, it is at the internet service provider we called to find out. Anyway, there's always, we should plan for backup. So I'm now connecting through my dongle. Yeah, so the last message I was trying to talk about was the issue of sustainability and how we as engineers had a major role to play in where we got to the situation and how we need to now address the situation. And it's very important that, and being a civil engineer and being, for example, the American Society of Civil Engineers in their code of ethics that they redrafted a few years back have held have brought in sustainability aspects in our practice as engineers in a very strong way. So, for example, one of their canons says engineers whose professional judgment is overruled under circumstances where the safety, health, and welfare of the public are endangered or the principles of sustainable development ignored shall inform their clients or employers of the possible consequences. So what they're saying is we have a duty, because sometimes I find decisions are taken at a level which is may not be in the long-term interest of the society from these aspects. And very often I find today the engineers are not asserting themselves in terms of giving the right technical advice and standing their ground on these issues in front of politicians and bureaucrats. Because they have their short-term agenda and they want things to be done very quickly to show results and so on, but which may not be in the best interest of the overall thing. And you know that this is not the right thing. And that you can do, you can stand up, only tall leaders like Sridharan and Vishweshwara, these are the people who could stand up and this is, for that you have to be very strong. You should have competence, number one. You should, as I mentioned earlier, and integrity. Unless you have these two, you can't really stand up and take a stand on these issues. And it's very important that engineers are giving this right advice and taking decisions in the overall interest of the society and the environment. And we have a long, strong role to play here. So we should be committed to improving the environment by adhering to the principles of sustainable development, so as to enhance the quality of the general public. And these tall engineering leaders give us the benchmark or the guidance on how we should go around doing that. With that, I would like to wish all the budding engineers a very successful career in engineering. And I think in events like this, we have the same. It's also good if we could bring in practicing engineers to give their perspective. That is just my submission. The next time we do an event like this, so that there is an element of not only we academics who teach and preach, but also people who practice give their side of their views on how to get this thing done. With that, thank you very much for the opportunity. Namaste.
Namaste, Satyanarayan ji. Thank you very much for your inspirational words. And your talk on how Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya Garu shaped the modern and new India and emerging technologies on which the India has to work on. Thank you very much, sir. Now, let us introduce another guest of the another speaker of the today's event, Sri Vivekanand Pai Garu. Sir Vivekanand Pai, presently the Secretary of Vijnana Mandali, and he is architect by profession. He completed his B.Arch from the College of Engineering Trivandrum, presently based at Kochi and running his own architectural practice. He is a part of the many events, national-wide events organized under the Vibha and Urja Yatra and India International Energy Summit at Nagpur in 2011, and involved in activities related to sustainable development and especially in renewable energy and green buildings. He is the executive editor of Science India magazine for 2 years, so which is the Vijnana Mandali flagship magazine during the period 2008 and 10. Now I request Sri Vivekanand Pai ji to give his message.
Thank you, Verma ji. Respected President of Bharateeya Vijnana Mandali, Professor P.S. Avdhani Garu, Speaker of today's program and Director of Indian Institute of Technology, Tirupati, Professor K. Satyanarayana Garu, Secretary of Bharateeya Vijnana Mandali, Professor G.R.K. Shastri Garu, and my colleague in Vijnana Bharati and a member of the Governing Council of Vijnana Bharati, Kompella Shastri Garu, members of the various institutions that are participating in today's event of Engineers Day, and my friends at Bharatiya Vijnana Mandali. We are today celebrating, as we all know, Engineers Day across the nation. A lot of programs are happening, and on 15th of September 1860, Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya was born, and now Satyanarayana Garu has already mentioned about the life achievements and remarkable achievements of Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya. He talked about his own experience recently at Hyderabad. Recently, we have seen that cities like Delhi, Mumbai, recently Hyderabad also got flooded. So the reasons for flooding these days, as he also mentioned in his talk about sustainability, has also to do with climate change, sea level rising, and the way our urbanization is moving. But of course, even allowing for those changes, in those days, Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya could come out with a very effective system for flood mitigation is remarkable. Unfortunately, even today, we are not in our urban planning how much we have considered about this kind of flood mitigation strategies is something that we have to look at critically. Satyanarayana Garu also talked about the different aspects of people like Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya, APJ Abdul Kalam and E. Sridharan that made them great. And looking at Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya's life, we can see that he always had a passion for perfection. It was exemplary, and he led such a very structured, disciplined life in his lifestyle, in his words, in his deeds, and probably in his thoughts. So one small story is there. He was once going somewhere, and on the way, a school, probably the school where he did his schooling, it came across, and they wanted him to visit the school. And Visvesvaraya Garu then visited the school. He just thought that he will have a look at the school and interact with the students. But the authorities over there insisted that Visvesvaraya Garu address the students. So all the students were there in a hall and he talked to them. But he normally doesn't give extempore speeches. He prepares every word. There are some people who said that when they went for various meetings, even international gatherings, others will be sleeping or moving around. Somebody woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning and he saw that Vishwesvaraya was preparing his speech that he has to deliver that day. Even every word he would weigh and add. So in this school, he spoke for about 5 minutes and then he left, but he was not very happy. So after a few days, he came back to school with a prepared speech and delivered his address. That is the kind of discipline that he imposed on himself. And that is the reason why, as Satyanarayana Garu mentioned, that he lived up to a ripe age of 102 and led a very active life and had immense remarkable achievements. Like the achievements span from Eden to Hyderabad. In civil engineering, his contribution spread across not only our country, but also abroad. His engineering services were used in various capacities all across the country, including building the Hirakud Dam in Odisha, railway bridge across Ganga in Patna, combating floods in Hyderabad, constructing Himayat Sagar and Osman Sagar reservoirs across Musi and EC rivers, and the reconstruction of Hyderabad city. One of the things that, as the Satyanarayana Garu already mentioned about, was his invention of the block system of irrigation, the automatic sluice gates and the collector well, which we can see at the Krishnaraj Sagar Dam. Actually, there is a small video by Vigyan Prasar on Mokshagundam Vishwesvaraya. I request all our students to go and see that. Very beautifully, they have presented the visual system of how that dam works, those sluice gates work. So please have a watch on that watch that YouTube video. There are many institutions that have been named after Vishwesvaraya, though he himself didn't believe in naming institutions on persons. We know our National Institute of Technology in Nagpur, it is named Vishwesvaraya National Institute of Technology. Earlier it was VREC, Vishwesvaraya Regional Engineering College. Then there is the Vishwesvaraya Technological University in Belgaum, Vishwesvaraya College of Engineering in Bangalore, Vishwesvaraya College of Technology in Bangalore. And about his achievements as Diwan of Mysore, Satyanarayana Garu already has mentioned. Vishwesvaraya was a firm believer that development alone can bring about prosperity of our people. See, he was born in 1860. That is when the Britishers were ruling our country. The Britishers came to this country in the 1757 Plassey War. They first came to the Bengal province. So what was the situation of our country during that period in the mid 18th century? In the beginning of the 18th century, that is in 1700, India was contributing 25% of the manufacturing goods across the globe. And from the first AD to around 1750, if you can Google Angus Madison, you can see that Indian contribution to global GDP was around 20 to 30%. Even in 1757, when the British East India Company came, they won over the Bengal province. Indian contribution to global GDP was around 16 to 20%. That is almost 1/5 of the global GDP. But in 1947, after 190 years, when they were leaving, it came down to just below 4%. And that means that we became a very poor nation because there were many foreign aggressors who came to our country from different parts of the world, because ours was a rich country and they ruled all here also. But something that differentiated the British from others was that the method by which they extracted wealth from our country. And this year, on 15th of August, was the 75th Independence Day of our country. So what we are doing is from August 15th, 2021 to August 15th, 2022, we are celebrating it as the Amrit Mahotsav, Swatantrata Ka Amrit Mahotsav. So it is 75 years since India won independence. But what is independence and what is Swatantrata? So there is a difference between these two. Independence is that we are changing the rulers from foreigners to ourselves. But the word Swatantrata means Swa means myself, my own. And Tantra means technology, you can say, or my own way of doing things. So Swatantrata means our own method of doing things. What is it that our own method of doing things? See, when the Britishers came, Britishers had their own lifestyles, their own language, their own traditions, which was very different from what we have. We have our own traditions, our own beliefs, our own culture, our own lifestyle. So what the British did in a way was that two things. One, they employed a very scientific method to wealth extraction. So in 1757, they won over the Bengal province. But 1767, within 10 years, within a decade, they established the Survey of India. If you go to the Survey of India website, you can see that it will mention that it is the first scientific institution in modern science in India. But that was built by the British in 67. And the purpose was, it was not to serve the people of our country. The purpose was they were limited in Bengal. So they wanted to expand, they wanted to conquer the nearby territories, for which they wanted to know how those territories looked like, what was there, what was the topography. So they wanted to survey that. So before conquering or attacking a region, they got the survey map done. Recently, just few weeks back, we changed one of the rules. The rule said that nobody is allowed to hold a map. Nobody is allowed to do a survey kind of thing. That kind of probably Satyanarayana Garu knows it better. So that rule, it was a 200-year or even 250 years old rule. That rule probably was brought in by the British with this purpose, that nobody else should have the topographical details of the place. So they started Survey of India, and they also stopped everyone else from carrying those data. And it took us such a long time to remove even those data, even after 75 years. So we can think, now we are in a world of Google Maps. You can see any place, anywhere. But we had a rule which said that you cannot do a survey or carry map or lose a map. Those things carried a punishment. It was criminal. So that rule was, though it was not much in practice, but it was officially removed only recently. Then they started Botanical Survey of India to know about the trees. One of the trees that they were very much interested in was the teak tree. Why teak? Because in those periods, initially there were ships built out of wood. One of the best woods that can be used for shipbuilding was teak. So they built the teak tree. And do you know that in those old days, one of the first railway lines that Britishers built passed through Nilambur, because Nilambur teak is one of the best teaks available. So they had a railway line from that station so that they can carry that teak to the ports and use for their shipbuilding. So many a times we must have heard that Britishers brought railways to India. But the fact is, Britishers brought railways to India to serve their purpose of taking our resources to the port and shifting it to England. And also Indians paid for the railway lines, because when the Britishers came and they built the railway line, for every rupee that the English investors invested, they were assured of 2 rupees return. Can you think of any company today that is coming out with a with a issue saying that they will assure to double the return. So this was one of the things. And they also, the second thing they did was that they used science to look down upon us. So what happened? We must have heard about Jagadish Chandra Basu. Jagadish Chandra Basu came to India in 1884 with a letter from Lord Raleigh, who later on went to achieve a Nobel Prize. Lord Raleigh said in England, J.C. Bose was a student under him in physics, so he can teach physics. Please employ him as a physics teacher. So J.C. Basu went to Presidency College and showed this letter. He applied for a teaching position there, but the Britishers told him that we can appoint you only with half the salary. Why half the salary? Because they said Indians cannot think in an accurate manner, exacting manner. So we will pay you only half the salary. From 1884 to 1887, Jagadish Chandra Basu told the British that I will teach physics, but I don't want your salary. You don't pay me a single paisa. I will teach without taking any salary. And Jagadish Chandra Basu taught physics in Presidency College for 3 years without any salary. And finally, the Britishers, the authorities had to give in, and they paid him all the salary with retrospective effect. And we know that what the money that he got, he later on started his own small lab. He started it in 1894. And in 1895, within 1 year, he could generate microwaves. We know the importance of generation of microwaves. Then he made a presentation of his discovery at the Royal Society, where Marconi approached him saying that we will make use of this discovery in a commercial way. But Jagadish Chandra Basu said, we Indians consider knowledge as not something that has to be sold. So my inventions can be used by anybody for the betterment of humanity. And it was Sister Nivedita who forced Jagadish Chandra Basu to take one patent. He had many. I am sure that you all are aware of the way he showed how plants also have a life. He showed how metals have a life, metal fatigue, like that. So many concepts that Jagadish Chandra Basu brought in, but he was the first satyagrahi, even before Gandhiji, in a sense that he said, he told British that I will not take a single rupee because you are insulting my people. You are insulting Indians. You are not saying that Jagadish Chandra Basu cannot think in an exact way, so we will pay only half the salary. You are saying that Indians cannot think in an exact way, so we will pay you half salary. So this kind of a thing that they were doing in English were doing during that time, to tell our people that we are superior. We not just have the military power, we also have the technology power and the scientific power, and you are what we call today blind belief, andhavishwas, and you don't know anything. That is the message they wanted to give us. So that is where many of our scientists came out, like Pramathnath Bose. Pramathnath Bose, you can Google and see. He is the person who was behind the establishment of Tata Iron and Steel Works in what is called Jamshedpur today, Sakshi in Bihar. So Pramathnath Bose joined the Geological Survey of India. He did geological survey of the whole across India. He prepared the maps and everything. He was from a smaller position. He came and then he was to be the superintendent. Finally, when Medalcote he was the superintendent and he retired, and Pramatnath Bose was the number 2. Then Medlicott wrote that Indians cannot even walk in the field of science. How can we expect them to run? And with this message, Pramatnath Bose was not given that position, and T.H. Holland, his 10 years junior to him, was given that position. Pramatnath Bose resigned, and then he was absorbed in the Mayurbhanj state, and that is when he found that there are huge deposits of iron ore in this place, Sakshi. He mentioned that to Jamshedji Tata. Then Jamshedji Tata was looking to start a industry, because it was believed that education, energy, cheap energy, and heavy industry, these are the 3 things that a country needs to progress. That was the belief of Jamshedji Tata. So Jamshedji Tata wanted to start this steel company, and with the information from Pramatnath Bose as the chief archaeologist of Mayurbhanj state, Jamshedji Tata zeroed in on Sakshi, and they started India's first heavy industry. Then there is Prafulla Chandra Ray, then his students, Meghnad Saha and Satyendranath Bose. Satyendranath Bose, whose name we must have heard as part of boson, the God's particle. It is named boson. The name Bose is there, that is Satyendranath Bose. It was Satyendranath Bose and Meghnad Saha who translated Albert Einstein's theory on relativity from German to English for the first time. So this history of great scientific achievements during last decades of 18th century to the first 2 decades of 19th century are not much well known in our country. So that is why in the Swatantratakra Amrit Mahotsav, we are Vigyan Bharati has come out with a year-long celebration to spread the awareness about the role of scientists in the fight against the British, not just as members of the agitation or anything, but in their own way by doing great science. That is why we had some of the world-class scientists, and that is what took to the first Nobel Prize outside of Europe in science by Chandrasekhar Venkatraman in 1930. He did his research in Indian Association for Cultivation of Science. I will just mention that and conclude my remarks. It was in 1930, and this Indian Association for Cultivation of Science was established by Mahendra Lal Sarkar in the year 1876. Mahendra Lal Sarkar was the second medical doctor with MD in India. Then in 1863, he started his practice in Calcutta. He had a roaring practice. In the initial days, he gave a lecture at the British Medical Association, where he called homeopathy a quackery. But after 2 years, he could not treat one of his patients whom another homeopathy doctor treated and cured. So he went and discussed with him, learned about homeopathy. And in 1867, 4 years after that, he gave a lecture at British Medical Association Calcutta chapter, where he was the vice president, where he mentioned his experience with homeopathy and suggested that we have to look at all the possibilities when we are treating a patient. Some of the British allopathy doctors there were furious. They said, we will not even allow you to complete your speech. Somebody wanted to snatch the papers from him, the speaking papers. Then he was thrown out. And even before he came out, he was removed from the post of the vice president of British Medical Association. And he was also removed from the primary membership of British Medical Association. This is the kind of treatment that they were giving and talking about science and scientific discovery. And but he didn't give up. He continued, and in 1876, with the help of people like Rabindranath Tagore, he established a laboratory by Indians for Indians, that was Indian Association for Cultivation of Science, where in 1820s, Chandrasekhar Venkatraman came and did his practice research after his working hours. He was working as a clerk somewhere, and then he came in the evenings and till late night he spent his time. And in 1828, he published his paper, and in 1830, he received the first Nobel Prize in science outside of New Europe. So this is the story, fascinating story of various Indian scientists, and we are celebrating it as Swatantrata Ka Amrit Mahotsav. The program was launched on the 2nd of August this year by Honorable Jitendra Singh, the Minister for Science and Technology, online, and Dattatreya Hosabale, the General Secretary of Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, also participated. And 2nd of August is the birthday of Prafulla Chandra Rai. And on 15th of August, we had a series of programs. In Andhra Pradesh also, we had a program. And now we will have a lot of programs in this connection. Let us all go deeper into this subject and get inspired from the passion that they show in doing research for the nation. So that is all I have to convey on this day of Engineers Day. And let us take inspiration from Mokshagundam Vishvesvaraya also, his meticulous commitment to his profession and be contributing.
Thank you very much, Vivekanand Paiji. You have given very inspirational lecture. They are not just engineers or scientists. They just real patriots or real freedom fighters who worked for the modern and new India with the spirit of Swatantrata. Thank you very much, sir. And now request Kishorji to propose vote of thanks.
Varmaji, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Kishorji, audible.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Somebody has to mute, sir.
Okay. It is my privilege to propose vote of thanks on behalf of Bharateeya Vijnana Mandali, AP chapter of Vibha. I thank Professor K. Sachan Garu, the director of IIT Tirupati, for enlightening and inspiring the engineering fraternity with his speech on this auspicious occasion of Engineers Day and spending his valuable time. I thank Sri Vivekananda Paiji, the National Secretary of Vibha, is always backing up us all in this Swadeshi Science Movement by Bharateeya Vijnana Mandali for participating in this event as the guest. I also thank the heads of the institutes, PVP Siddhartha Institute of Technology, Pottisram Engineering College, Pragati Engineering College, Sri Vasavi Engineering College, SRKR, SVIST Kadapa, and the students who have associated in this lecture session. Lastly, I thank all the faculty members and young engineering students for participating in this event. Thank you one and all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Kishorji. Now, with this, we conclude today's lecture. Now, I thank everyone for their active participation. Please visit BVM website, and you get latest updates about the series of talks that are going to be arranged in as a part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav.
Once shall we switch on our video cam so that we will have a snap? Hello.
Stop.
Sir, shall we
Dhanyawad
switch
ji.
on the
Thank
video
you.
cam
Thank
so that
you.
we can have a snap?
Thank you. Okay.
I request all the participants to switch on the video cams.
All of you, we request to switch on your video cameras so that we will take the snapshot with the guests of honor and chief guest.
All the participants, please switch on the video once. Turn on your video cam. Once again, I request all the participants to switch on your video cam.
అందరూ కూడా దయచేసి మీ వీడియో కెమెరాలను ఆన్ చేసుకుంటే మనం ఒక స్నాప్ షాట్ తీసుకుని ఫ్యూచర్ లో బ్రోచర్ లోని ప్రింట్ చేసుకోవడానికి బాగుంటుంది.
సార్ అయిపోయింది సార్, కట్ చేశారు మీరు.
ఓకేనా, అయిందా?
Fine, sir. 1 minute, sir. 1 minute. శాస్త్రి సార్ మిస్ అయ్యారు. శాస్త్రి గారు
నేను ఉన్నాను కదయ్యా వీడియో కెమెరాలోనే.
మీరున్నారు సార్. రైట్ రైట్. థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్.
థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్. అవధానిజీ నమస్తే అండి.
నమస్తే.
నమస్కారం సార్ చైర్మన్ గారు.
నమస్తే. నమస్తే.
నమస్తే సార్ రవికిరణ్ శాస్త్రి గారు.
నమస్తే వర్మ గారు. కంగ్రాట్స్ అండి, మీరు మెక్వాడ్స్ ప్రెసిడెంట్ అయ్యారంట కదా. ప్రెసిడెంట్ ఆర్ సెక్రటరీ?
ప్రెసిడెంట్. మీకెలా తెలుసు సార్?
ఎంవిజిఆర్ 7 ఏళ్ళు పనిచేస్తాను సార్ నేను. అక్కడ అడిగేస్తే తెలుస్తుంది ఇక్కడ.
గ్రేట్.
ఓకే, థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
దేనికి ప్రెసిడెంట్ అయ్యారు?
ఆయన
ఫ్యాకల్టీ అసోసియేషన్